Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, Titan12. However you want to call me, I don't really care, and welcome back to Wolf Tanks. Yeah, I just came back from London. I spent 2 days out of town to go watch one of my favorite football teams perform terribly. Yeah, but enough of that. Today we're in Wolf Tanks. I came back, and the very first thing I saw was that they're going to be rebalancing some medium tanks. Now, if we look back into the past, there were several instances where some tier 10 medium tanks were just not up to date. The Leopard 1, which is depicted here in the picture you can see right there, is certainly one of the vehicles that does not hold up to the high standards that some other tier 10s medium tanks do have. The M48 patent was buffed, and now it certainly is in a much better place than it was previously. And the Leopard 1, on the other hand, was kind of left on the side. It does have exceptionally good view range and mobility and a very, very amazing gun. But, in the current meta with the Object 430U that is running around, it still is being very overpowered. We can see that the Leopard 1 obviously is not going to be the fan favorite, although I do love it very much. I own it. I have remarked the Leopard prototype A, but I'm not that very fond of the tier 10 because at tier 10 it's still another kind of league that you have to deal with than at tier 9. Yeah, and previously I kind of watched some videos on War Thunder. I've seen that War Thunder is not doing very well because the developers aren't rebalancing the game accordingly. And what I've seen is that rebalancing is very important for a game's longevity, for its lifetime. And World of Tanks and Wargaming, they're trying right now. We still have a long way to go until we have a very good balanced game, but this is the right step. It's the right step into the right direction. So, which vehicles will be nerfed or buffed or reworked? Excuse me, I'm a bit of an allergic because I have hay fever right now. This freaking stupid allergy, it's so annoying. So the STB-1 is going to be reworked. The Leopard 1 is going to be reworked. That's probably the most the most anticipated rework of the tier 10 medium tanks. Basically, maybe of all tier 10s because the E100 is also on that same level, but both of these vehicles need to be reworked. The Amx 30B, which will be my next tier 10 unlock, which is going to be quite interesting. We're going to be taking a closer look at all of these vehicles just in a second, and I will actually give you guys a little bit of a summary on what they've written in those texts. And they're going to be nerfing the Object 430, and same goes for the Object 430U. So all in all, doesn't look too bad. But let's get right into the thick of it. So they're talking about that they have had some rebalancing plans for a while now, since December, maybe even sooner than that. The Kranwagen is getting revamped. We are going to get Swedish medium tanks at tier 8, tier 9, and tier 10 soon. I have made a preview on one of them, the tier 10 one, and the tier 9 one probably as well. I think I will just make a review of the tier 8 when it comes out actually, and I get it myself. So what we can see right here is that the STB-1 is going to be the very first one to be reworked, at least here in the on the website. It's depicted as the first one. It is going to get a hydropneumatic suspension, which is the same as the Swedish tier 8, tier 9, and tier 10 medium tanks have. So you're going to be able to use that. It's going to be the same mechanic because the STB-1, since it was actually built, did have this hydropneumatic suspension built in. So why not have it? It's pretty damn cool. It's no longer going to be solely Swedish kind of mechanic. It's going to be also put in this vehicle right here. That might be just one of the reasons why it might be more worth to get this vehicle by that factor alone. So moving on, we can see that they're going to be doing some changes. What they think is that the STB-1 is a mid to close range combatant and not a long range sniper. Now, I always had this vehicle in mind as a bit more armored Leopard 1, which is also armed with a 105mm cannon. but as it turns out, Wargaming do see this more as a little bit of an aggressive brawler with very, very impressive DPM. So what we can see right here is that traverse speed is going to be buffed, the gun reload time is going to be buffed as well. They want to increase the DPM 2,958 HP per minute. That's pretty damn nice, you can see right there. But it is going to be suffering from penetration drop off. 500 meters, only 232 millimeters of penetration with APCR standard rounds. That's 16 millimeters less than it was before, 248. And I think this is kind of a shame. And it's also going to lose quite a substantial bit of velocity, shell velocity. 1,050. Previously, it used to be 1,478. That was a lot more. Like a shell, still 1,050 is still above average. I mean, it's an APCR shell, but you can see that they have nerfed the velocity of the shell for the standard and the premium shells for APCR and heat. Why do they do that? Well, obviously they want you to play this vehicle in a very specific role, in a very specific setup as a medium to short range fighter. They don't want you to be sniping from very far along, because the sniping capabilities right here are going to be nerfed quite a bit. The velocity is, I think, much more important than the average penetration. Although you can still lead velocity, you can lead the shot easier than you can actually penetrate something with standard shells. You do not have the damage drop off with heat shells, but you can see that 950 meters per second opposed to the 1073 meters per second previously. That is obviously not that amazing to see that they're cutting that off. Now, I myself, I wanted to work for the STB-1, but I didn't really have the time, so I just kind of went over to the Leopard 1, did Deadline instead, because I already was at tier 8 at that time. But you can see that some of these statistics really are taking a hit. Same goes for damage per shot of standard and special shells. It's losing its 390 alpha damage to 360, which I do not understand. It might be the case because they're increasing the DPM and the rate of fire, but since the rate of fire and the DPM are only increased by a little bit, 33 HP per minute, that is nothing too spectacular. I don't really see the logic in decreasing the alpha by that much. You can see they're also decreasing the damage with the high explosive shell by 40 HP, and that's pretty damn much. What you can see on the other side is also that the turret traverse speed and hull traverse during movement is going to be decreased, which will also show you, well, when you're moving in this vehicle, you're going to be a lot better at shooting the guys, because your accuracy is going to be a lot better. Accuracy in total is going to take a dip, 0.37, where it was previously 0.36. Not very spectacular even back then. Nothing like the Leopard 1, which has like 0.29 dispersion at 100 meters, which didn't always feel like that, but most of the time when you were firing, those shots were pinpoint accurate. That's always pretty nice to see. Moving on, we can see that an aim time is getting decreased by it's getting a buff by decreasing the aim time by 0.3 seconds, making it 2 seconds to have a fully aimed in reticle. That's pretty interesting. HP is going to be increased by 50 HP, making a total of 2,000. Turret traverse is going to be better with 46 degrees per second. And the top speed is going to be nerfed. That is a bit odd. Because the vehicle previously wasn't very fast either. 53 kilometers, now 48. It's kind of on par with the M48 pattern now, but I don't really see the point in nerfing the traverse speed on this vehicle that much. You can see the reverse speed is going to be better. Engine power is going to be increased, so it's going to accelerate a lot faster and reach the 48 kilometer mark a lot quicker than previously. Than it did previously, but at the same time you're losing top speed by 5 kilometers. That is pretty damn sucky. That's almost 10% drop off of your speed, your top speed. that really sucks. I don't understand why they did it, but it's very weird. It does look like they're nerfing the vehicle in some instances, making it a very or a worse option at longer distances, but a better option at closer distances, and that's exactly how they want you to play this vehicle. I don't think it's a very good thing that they're trying to force you into that role, but I think that's the only way how they're going to get the people to play this vehicle more aggressively. But I don't really see the armor holding up as much as other vehicles have, like the Soviet Tech Tree, the Object 140, which can do everything. I don't really see that being that nice of a change. It's very interesting to see, but with the hydropneumatic suspension, it's going to get better gun depression, probably, and that's going to be quite interesting to see. So this change on the STB-1, I don't own it, so I can't tell you guys how it plays right now, but I would love to hear your guys' opinion. What do you think of the changes with the STB-1? Are you looking forward to them? Do you even have the STB-1? Is it now more interesting for you as a vehicle with the characteristics that have just been updated? For me, it kind of is a weird vehicle. I always liked seeing the STB-1 on the battlefield. I always thought I was going to end up with one eventually. But I'm going to be seeing how well it's going to fit in there, because armor profile isn't that spectacular in this vehicle, and there are no armor changes right here depicted, and it kind of makes me a little bit worried about the statistics that they're changing right there, the characteristics, because it looks like a pretty big nerf with some buffs in certain areas, making it better at close range. But if there is no armor, why would you try to get into close range engagements anyhow, right? Maybe you have the crazy hill advantage now. So the Leopard 1, definitely one of the vehicles that needed a major buff. So we're going to be reading this text real fast, because this is a very important vehicle and very important changes that are coming. This is going to be quite interesting to see, quite important to see, because as we can see right here, there are quite a few changes, ups and downs, but this is going to be quite interesting to see. So we consider the Leopard 1 a long distance sniper. Okay, fast and maneuverable. That's exactly how you're playing it right now. First of all, we will increase its alpha damage from 390 to 420, as well as armor penetration. So you're going to be getting 60 HP worth of damage more than on the STB-1, which is kind of weird. We will also change the type of standard shells for this tank. By default, it will fire armor-piercing shells, and their velocity will become one of the highest in the game. So no longer you're going to be running around with a APCR shell. It's going to be only armor-piercing, and they're going to be having the same velocity. Now, this is quite interesting. I don't know what the velocity on the APCR shells is right now, but they were quite crazy high. But this is an interesting change, because it might just be a downgrade. If the AP shells are, less effective than the APCR shells than that they had on the vehicle previously. So this change we'll have to see just in a second. The Leopard 1 will be enhanced as a sniper and will be able to hit enemies more effectively at long range, thanks to increased accuracy and decreased aiming time. I thought the aiming time and the accuracy previously was already pretty damn good, but as you can see right here, Wargaming want to specify this vehicle a lot more, making it very unique in its right, and I think that's not too bad. Yes, we'll have to see how it does depict itself in the in the characteristics down below. Also, its forward speed will be increased by 5 kilometers to 70 kilometers per hour, making Leopard 1 the fastest tier 10 medium tank in the game. Well, that's pretty damn crazy. Very interesting. Due to such serious improvement in its characteristic, we will have to reduce some of the other parameters which have less impact on its battle role. In particular, we're reducing reverse speed by 3 to 20 kilometers. So it used to be 23 kilometers per hour. HP pool will be decreased. Previously, it was 1,950. Now it's only going to be 1,850. That is probably going to be one of the changes that a lot of people will be not happy about, because this vehicle previously was very easily taken out of the game because it only had 1,950 HP. It has no armor. And you can see the power to weight ratio is going to be worsened by a little bit as well, which is going to be the which will have the result that 70 kilometers per hour, maybe we're not even going to be able to reach it in a very quick time. Okay. Okay, another factor is that the APCR shells will be changed to AP and the heat shells will be changed to APCR. So what will end up happening right there is no longer will you be able to fire or to spam heat with Leopard 1, and you won't be able to penetrate a Jagdpanzer E100 from the front from a very long distance away. Now, do I like that change? Not very much, to be fair. Um, okay, I can understand what they're trying to do right here. When you're fighting very heavy armored tanks, like let's say the Type 4 Heavy, the Jagdpanzer E100, and you're fighting them at very long ranges, when you're firing high explosive anti tank ammunition, um, heat ammo, you do not have any damage or no penetration drop off. Basically, what is going to be happening is if there is a flat surface and there is no spaced armor there, and you have enough penetration to go through that part of the tank, you're going to be hitting it with enough penetration, you're going to be hitting it, and you're going to be dealing damage. Now, if you're firing APCR shells and there's a slight angle on that target and you're also very far away, then you are going to have an additional penetration drop off at distance, and it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to penetrate those super heavy targets. Now that's going to be quite interesting to see if the vehicle is angled at, I don't know, in any kind of way. APCR is going to be very, very bad in that scenario, and you're going to be losing quite a bit of the flexibility that the Leopard 1 still had, at least in its sense of carrying that special premium ammunition. And I don't really think that this is a good change, but we'll have to see how this is going to be happening in the live server. Other than that, we can see there are a lot of big positive changes for this vehicle. Traverse speed is going to be decreased. We still have 48 degrees per second traverse speed. This vehicle is not going to be turning like a slowpoke, but you can see the STB-1 is going to be turning faster than you are. Even the AMX 30B is going to be faster than you are in turning, at least. But you can see, yeah, that's going to be changing. The average damage per minute is going to be increased, 2,700 HP per minute. The standard shell penetration was already pretty good with 268 millimeters of pen previously. Now it's 278. Yeah, that's going to be enough to go through anything at the front, the side, if you hit the weak spots. But it's the problem that the APCR shells don't have, that the premium shells don't have, that they are no longer heat, because that would make the vehicle very versatile, maybe too powerful. That might be a problem. So they're going to be nerfing the standard shell velocity because you were firing AP shells now. So instead of the 1,478 meters per second, you're now at 1,380 meters per second. I don't really understand this change with the with the rounds. It still kind of bugs me and it irritates me. But you can see the velocity of the APCR shells is going to be a lot faster than the heat shells, obviously. So that's actually not a huge buff, because previously it was just the other way around and you had heat shells, which is kind of better. I don't really see the issue with, adding more pen on this vehicle. That was never the problem that this vehicle had. It's like Wargaming. I don't even know. It's like I have the feeling Wargaming never play their own vehicles, because this change makes no sense to me. And I'm just getting riled up. Anyway, we're going forward. Average damage per shot. Now the alpha is going to be 420. It's going to be increased by 30. That's neat, I guess. That will mean that the high explosive shell will do more damage as well. Rate of fire is going to be decreased, but the alpha is still better because of the DPM is still going to be better because of the alpha. The gun dispersion rates are going to be better as well, which didn't really bother me previously. And the aim time, this is a very nice change. But what is very annoying with this vehicle is that the gun is very inconsistent. You might have games where every shot goes where you're aiming it at, and then you might have games where like all of a sudden the rounds just go wherever the fuck they want to go. If they get that inconsistency out, they wouldn't have the need to actually buff that, and they wouldn't have to meddle with the premium shells, the APCR shells, because I liked that this vehicle had heat shells, and it really bothers me. I don't know how I should phrase it in any other way. The HP is going to be going down by 100 HP. That's going to be quite annoying. The top speed is going to be better, so 70 kilometers per hour. That's quite nice. You'll be able to actually outflank the vehicles even better now, but it still sucks because, well, how many maps are there where you have like huge open spaces where you can really use that mobility? You're still going to be running into some scenarios where this vehicle is going to be quite useless, where you cannot snipe and you'll just have to kind of make do with what you've got. Okay. We also want to reconfigure the entire branch and check the effects of our changes on the researchable vehicles. Only then will we proceed to rebalance Tier 8 premium tanks. So the characteristics of the Panzer 58 MUTs will certainly be changed, but only after rebalancing the entire branch. So that's going to be fun. The entire German tech tree is going to be rebalanced, so the only thing they can do is actually buff it because the tree is terrible. So the next change will be coming for the AMX 30B, the tier 10 French medium tank, the second one after the Batchat 25T, which is not getting any buffs or nerfs. It is in a good state right now, at least in Wargaming's sense. And I think I can agree with that. Yeah, the Batchat 25T is actually in a good place. That vehicle certainly does have pretty damn good characteristics at the moment. AMX 30B, it will have better traverse speed. It will have better standard shell penetration. I don't own this vehicle yet, but I'm very much in love with the AMX 30 prototype. I didn't know that the standard shell penetration was that bad on this vehicle. Then the special shell, why don't they call it premium shell? I don't understand it. Because, okay, yeah, it's no longer premium because you can buy it with credits, but it doesn't matter. It's just this very tacky way of typical wargaming. So 330 millimeters for the heat shell, which was currently standing at 300 millimeters of penetration. Yeah, 330 is minimum at least. In my opinion, 310 millimeters is like standard. The velocity will be increased with the standard APCR shells, and the velocity will be also increased on the premium shells, 988 meters per second. I didn't know it was so bad previously, only like 800 meters per second for the heat shell at tier 10. That's very, very special. That almost makes you look like a freaking god with the 1,200 something meters per second you had on the premium, the heat shells on the Leopard 1. Moving on, the dispersion will be decreased. Accuracy is going to be better, 0.33 instead of the 0.36. And the turret traverse speed is going to be increased as well, but it's going to be losing some horsepower. So I'm not really in any kind of way certain what this vehicle is supposed to be. Is it supposed to be a better sniper? What they're trying to say is when rebalancing the characteristics of this vehicle, we constantly kept in mind it had no distinct play role. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. The AMX-30B is a universal second line support vehicle which can perform equally well in a variety of situations. However, it lacks accuracy and armor penetration when playing at long distances. So we decided to improve these characteristics. It's the most universal choice as it performs better than the Leopard 1 at close quarters and better than the STB-1 at long range. So it's very interesting to see Wargaming's vision right here. This is supposed to be like a blend of this and this. This is supposed to be a specific, like a specialist sniper marksman. This is supposed to be a specialist close quarter mid-range combat expert, and this is supposed to be like the uh, jack of all trades. And now to the very important part. Object 430 and 430U are going to be nerfed. No armor changes, but there are going to be some characteristics changes on their gun dispersion values and turret traverse speeds. Wow. Okay. The Object 430 and 430U are formidable vehicles that have demonstrated good effectiveness since their introduction into World of Tanks. So we didn't rush to change their characteristics. This is a huge, huge, huge red warning sign, because both of these vehicles were hopelessly overpowered in the way how they were handled. They still are hopelessly overpowered. Their armor effectiveness is ridiculous. How they're bouncing shells from same tier opponents from the front, the lower part, doesn't matter, from the turret. These vehicles are overpowered, and this is nothing to be proud of. We didn't rush to change their characteristics. They were also not very common in random battles, and their numbers didn't affect the game balance. Well, I am most certainly sure that this vehicle did change quite a few games by just being in the game. However, the number of these vehicles has increased in the last 6 months, as well as your feedback regarding their combat performance. Therefore, we decided to reduce some of their excessively high combat parameters. So this is definitely the one tank that needs to be dealt with the most. Average damage is going to be decreased. The DPM is only going to be 2,328. It's the worst out of the three vehicles right here, but it also has a bigger, larger gun. Better, yeah, overall alpha damage. So dispersion on turret traverse 0.12. What was it? Accuracy at 100 meters or something like that. So they're going to nerf the dispersion on the turret when you're turning the turret. The gun dispersion during movement and hull traverse is going to be nerfed by just a little bit, 0.02 dispersion. I'm not even sure what the value actually is. The aim time is going to be upped by a bit, 2.7 seconds instead of the 2.3 seconds. And the turret traverse speed is going to be increased as well by, or decreased by 6 degrees per second. So yeah, that's DPM is definitely a large change, 260. It might just get the vehicle a little bit more on stock, or a little bit more, bit harder to play, but at the same time we're still kind of lacking the real weak spot that this vehicle should have. They should have at least add 1 or 2 weak spots on the turret or the upper plate to make it a bit easier to take out, because it's a real pain in the ass at the moment. And it has nothing to do with the gun characteristics. They just have to they just have to nerf the armor a bit in some places, and it might just be a vehicle that might fit in, be a bit armored, be a bit better armored and have a bigger gun, but not be this dominating force that it is right now. So the Object 430, this is where it all began. This was the very overpowered tier 10 at the beginning. It was very, very powerful. But to be fair, I like this vehicle as a tier 10 much more than the Object 430U. But yeah, we can choose. This is how the game is being played right now. Yeah, and you can see they're going around some of the same changes right there. Hit points are going to be decreased. Turret traverse speed by 8 degrees per second decreased. Aim time is going to be worse. Gun dispersion is going to be worse. Turret dispersion is going to be worse. The average damage is going to be worse. And yeah, so some nerfs. We're going to see how this is going to be playing out. As soon as the next test server is coming around, I will be trying those vehicles out. I can inform you how they do play when that does happen. There will also look at the tier 9 vehicles, and there are still some other changes that they need to do. Uh, but other than that, I'm happy that they're at least looking into the tier 10 medium tanks. I do not agree with all of the changes. I do think some of them are quite controversial, but as always, I would love to hear you guys' opinion. And what do you think? Do you play any of these medium tanks? Are you working towards one of them? Do you enjoy them at their current state? Do you think they don't need any buffs? Just write it down in the comment section below. I'll read it, I'll respond, and I'll see you guys on the next one.